All right, everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far. I was trying to figure out what game I was going to play next on stream here, and then I remembered that Resident Evil 2 Remake runs really well on my computer, and I can have my model and everything. And I only beat the game with Leon, so I figured what I would do is do my run through with Claire. So go ahead and get the game up real quick. And for some reason, the this game's a little weird with like my dual monitors. Sometimes I have trouble switching scenes back and forth here. So once I get my I've got a little stream deck thing that I can program here. So it's gonna be kind of wonky when I switch scenes. That make sure the game isn't too loud. That down. And hold on. It's like it does this like weird thing where it's like flipping back and forth between my monitors, and I think it's because I had to put the game on a different uh freaking resolution to work correctly, to look good. So all right, think I got it now, or now I can see. Yep, now I can see chat. Okay, cool. Oh, I forgot to turn the damn music off. Christ. Last thing. Like, there's no way we're gonna be able to hear the game. So if the game noises are too loud or you cannot hear me or anything like that, please let me know. And we'll get that adjusted. Alright, so I'm not super great at these games, so I'm actually gonna do assisted here. So please don't judge me. That's a crazy looking boogie. The graphics are still like really, really impressive for like this coming out in like 2019. Hey, what's up, Fancy? Yeah, I can barely hear the music. I mean, the game. Is that like really low? Are you guys able to hear all the sound in this cutscene here? Don't hear the talking. Okay, so that's not good. Hold on here. See if I can fix this. All the way back up here. Let's actually gonna come on. Cat back up. Yeah, the game does have actual like voice acting. All right, let me know if you guys can hear it this time. Are you able to hear it now, or? Don't hear any talking. Okay, I'm gonna have to go in the settings here and see if I can fix this. I am so sorry. I'm having even trouble hearing it in my headphones, so. Crash was loud as fuck. Okay. Alright. Let me see if I can go in settings here. Audio. Volume. Voice volume is all the way up. Sound effect here. Let's do. I guess we'll do. Maybe off. See if that makes a difference. I do have the sound on. Hold on. Maybe that's something to do. Oh. I'm dumb. I hated the way. Okay, so I was telling Feisty here that it is like weird about my monitors. All right. Let me know now if you can hear things when we get into it. So I can't. Let me put it back to headphones now that I think the problem was on uh freaking OBS. No, it's okay. Hey, I totally get it, Fancy. I mean, COVID is awful. So
Hello?
you guys hear the voices now?
Anybody here? Hello?
Okay, cool. Why it's so low in my headphones? Oh well, I mean, as long as the sound's working for you guys, hopefully it won't
Are
screw
you
me
okay?
over. He's fine. He's just gonna walk it off.
Wait here. I'll check it out.
Everything's totally normal here.
I said hold still!
Excuse me, is everything okay?
Stay back, ma'am. I got this.
Get off him! I said get off him! Don't come any closer! Shit! Shit.
Oh. Hopefully I don't get super lost this time around. If I start to get lost, I promise this time, guys, I will look things up. Yeah, he was just a little snackish there.
What the hell is up with you?
Oh. Now I have COVID. God damn it.
Whoa, don't shoot!
Get down!
Luckily, the characters in this game somehow tank the T-virus, so... Yeah, you're human,
We gotta
so...
get out of here.
Resident Evil
You all right?
has
Yeah, I think so.
a little bit of
Thanks.
plot holes
Thank me
where
later. You're safe.
the MCs,
Shit.
for some reason, can get bit by zombies. I don't know why. It doesn't really explain it, so...
Come on! Get in!
Everybody else, as soon as they get bit, they're like...
Hold on.
Action Bastard Drive.
What the hell is going on?
I don't know. Hopefully they'll have some answers at the police station.
Wait, you're a cop?
Yeah, Leon Kennedy. You are?
Claire.
Yeah.
Redfield.
Live around here?
No. I'm looking for my brother. He's a cop too.
Well, it's a good thing we found each other. I don't know what to expect anymore.
Yeah, he was a boy-ass boy before he was, like, super action bastard man. Wonder why it's so choppy on the stream. Because, like, it looks like it's running fine on my stream. Here. I'm sorry, guys. Wee baby Leon Kennedy. Resident Evil 2.
Attention all citizens. Due to the citywide outbreak, you are advised to take shelter at the Raccoon City Police Station. Free food and medical supplies will be provided to everyone in need.
Oh my god, this is so unreal.
Police station's not much farther. They'll know something.
Yeah, but what if we're the only ones? What if there's no
No,
survivors?
there's survivors. It's a big city. There has to be.
It's called Raccoon City. There's no way it's a big city. Yeah, everything's totally fine here. Nothing crazy
It's like
going
we're
on.
walking from here.
That's totally normal.
More like running.
Yeah, good call.
Leon, we gotta back up.
Oh no, the truck
What
driver
the-
from earlier.
Holy shit. There, get out. Get out now!
I can't!
Hold on!
Explosion! Ah, dang.
Claire! Claire, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. How about you?
I can't stay here. It's not safe.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you guys forgot about the zombies.
Go on ahead. I'll meet you at the station.
Run around and flail
Can't
my
stop.
arms like a muppet.
Gotta keep moving.
Danger.
It's like the end of the world.
It kind of sucks that Claire has like the tiniest, like weeniest little like snub nose
Police station.
pistol, too.
Almost there.
Barely any ammo. Too fast. You can't get me. Fastest girl alive. I'm still really hear this. What? Here. Hey. Snooping around here, just see items. I don't think so. Right. Oh, ammo. Hell yeah. Oh no, a key item. Sure hope he doesn't get bit. Alright. I can save. Stand. We're gonna save a file here. So cute. Go that. Might real quick. Oh yeah, first aid spray. Let's go. This key. Get rid of that so it doesn't space in my inventory. Inventory management's really important. Excuse me, game. Key for that door. This is a puzzle. Another puzzle there. Yes, I can. Well, I need. Safe there. I'll have to find the combination for. So, ooh, weed. Let me get a weed. That'll help me. Welcome to Raccoon City. Did you know while we are the home of pharmaceutical giant Umbrella Corporation, Raccoon City is a vibrant and dynamic city with a long, rich history of its own. And this guy will introduce you to a few of the more unusual points of interest our city has to offer. Raccoon City Police Station. The building in the center of town wasn't always a police station. In fact, it used to be an art museum. Various features like the unusual clock tower and the goddess statue in the main hall remind us of a bygone era. Orphanage. Just a few blocks from the police station is an orphanage. Founded and run by the Umbrella Corporation with the help of generous donations from businesses and citizens alike. The building is known for its stained glass window, which attracts visitors from around the world.
Turns a museum into a police station.
Let me look at it. Ah, yeah. Whoa. Okay. Be on that side. Is the game like really choppy for you guys, like on stream here? I don't want it to like look really bad. Have you guys like get headaches watching me play. R ammos. Said it is. I wonder if I can do it. Maybe something. $60. 60. Sync. All right. We'll see if that makes sense. I want it super. Kind of looks like it's still kind of choppy on the screen there. Yeah, we're gonna crawl into the spoop hole. This is totally a good idea. Looks legit. Nothing bad will happen in here. You know what? Hold on. I think going to turn off my model. That should actually help. So you guys won't be able to see me, but it might help the stream a little better here. You'll just hear my voice. Ooh, that's running a lot smoother already. Alright, so need a fuse. Yeah, it just sucks that, like, you know, games take up so much, like, resources, like, to play.
Focus, Claire. Focus.
That. Oh god, sorry. Try not to whip it around too much here. So this guy's actually dead. Oh, maybe he is. Okay. Yeah, it kind of sucks that I can't use my VTuber model as much as I would like. Maybe I should make a PNG tuber for gaming. That way it doesn't take as much resources to use. You guys can still see me. I'll be a disembodied voice. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. Pensy wants to look snazzy, look fly, you know. Hello, is there anything gross in here? Oh, hello. Oh, giving me a lot of health items. Nice. I remember in the original game, I did the Claire playthrough first. It's funny because like the original PS1 Resident Evil 2 is actually my favorite out of the series. And it was the easiest at the time. But these remakes are definitely quite a bit more difficult. This guy's totally gonna make it, by the way. Nothing bad's gonna happen to him at all. He's full of beefaroni. He's totally. There's nothing wrong here at all. I love the sketches. Uh, so under the goddess statue, there is a secret passage. It's super secret. Oh, there's zombies in here. Oh god. Run away! Oh, I can't. Son of a bitch. I was gonna say. Surely this won't happen to me because I'm an MC. I won't be half a person for the rest of the game. Squish. Hell yeah, Marvin. Marvin's a goddamn American hero.
Obviously, someone taught you well.
Yeah. I know how to take care of myself.
Come on.
Take my bloody ass hand. Just slips because there's so much blood. Falls on her ass. Breaks her tailbone.
So nobody knows what caused this?
There's a lot of theories. But all I know for sure is that this place is crawling with zombies.
Yeah, you're telling me.
You can't just say the Z word.
Just in case.
I'm not gonna be around long. Once I find Chris, we're out of here.
You really Chris's sister?
Yeah. Why? Did you find something?
He's on vacation. Europe, I think. Left weeks ago.
Vacation? It's great news.
Well, I've got more for you. Looks like there might be a way out of this secret passageway.
Good.
Now there's
Okay.
blood all over it.
We should probably get you to the hospital.
No, forget about me. I can take care of myself.
No. Don't be ridiculous. You're gonna need some help.
Listen, Claire. Save yourself. So you can see your brother again. Now, we'll probably need this.
No, I'm not taking that. You're gonna.
And be careful. If you see one of those things, no matter who they were, you can't hesitate. Take them out if you can.
Kill the head, keep them dead. I'm trying my best to run past most of them in this game, so I don't, like, I don't know, waste a bunch of ammo. Combat knife. Okay. So. Let's to open it. Okay, now got that thing. Some of this. Cool. Okay. This one. One is flying statues. Okay. There's no lion statue. Lion twig burr. big. Oh shit, it's a lion medallion. Yeah. Let me go down here and stick that in so it's out of the way. Eh. Eh. A single part of the puzzle.
Lee was right.
Yeah, we're not out of here yet.
Save. I'm gonna neurotically save, so don't mind me. Door. Put away once for now. Just keep. Agree. Going to be playing some Code Vein 2, so not going to be talking. That's okay. I get it. I hope you have fun. Look at this. Let's combine. Double weed. Hell yeah. Board up a window with that. Ready. This one. Oh, it's on the ones. I guess I wasted a bullet there. So tasty. Itchy tasty. Key for that door. Let's do. That'll keep some annoying zombies out of the way. Probably could have used it right there. It did. September 25th. Turning the station into a temporary shelter due to the massive sudden outbreak. All police personnel have been instructed to make the safety of the citizens their top priority, as we try to accommodate as many of them as possible. September 25th. Addendum. One of the refugees attacked us in the middle of the night, resulting in the death of one officer and injuring 3 others. The person in question was quickly restrained. We believe this was simply a case of someone snapping under intense stress. September 26th. A mob attacked the station today, resulting in a number of casualties. A few survivors were able to make it safely behind the emergency shutters, but were surrounded as we are. It'll be hard for any of us to escape this place. We're not sure we can fix any of our comm equipment, so we remain cut off from the outside world. September 27th. There was another clash on the west side of the station around 1 p.m. 12 people died, and there is only a handful of survivors left. Everything is falling into disarray here. David Ford. Thanks, David. Ooh, a map. Hell yeah. Let's see. I think this door. So, we're gonna on up here. Honey. Worry about this guy. Okay. What? Yeah, this is the open some of these if I get the key codes and stuff. Of them that are already open. Fantastic. I think I need this. Pretty sure. Oh yeah, I need something. But I think I can answer it. I can open it. Yeah. E. And I don't have any twos, so those are all the well, that you guys can come. Just trying to get myself and go, man. Leave me alone. Eat that. Bitch. Food. Sure, let's go. Uses of gunpowder. Handgun ammo, gunpowder times 2, acid rounds, gunpowder, high grade gunpowder, white, submachine gun ammo, high grade gunpowder, white times 2. There's a lot of ammo left around the station, so make good use of any gunpowder you find. Different guns require different ammo, so pay attention when you're finding things or you won't get what you need. Good to know. Are giving me a shitload of ammo, which is nice. Trying not to use. Operations report. September 20, 2:30 a.m. It's down to just me and 3 others. No weapons, no ammo, and too many skirmishes. Have drained us mentally and physically. We're not gonna make it. Officer Phillips once suggested we escape through the sewers. Apparently there's a secret tunnel under the place left over from its museum days. I brushed her idea off before, but now it's not sounding all that bad. Yeah, there's no proof there's even a tunnel or that the sewers aren't infested with zombies. But I don't want to sit here and wait to die either. It's a long shot, but I'm gonna try to find out what I can about that tunnel. Elliot Edward. rookie's first assignment. Leon S. Kennedy. We're putting you on a very special case for your first assignment. Your mission is to unlock your desk. The key to your success is in the initials of our first names. Input the letters in order of our desks. There are 2 locks, one on each side of your desk. Make sure you get them both. Basically, your first task is to remember your fellow officers' names. But you figured that much out, right? Good luck, Leon. By the way, it might take a little work to get Scott to give you a straight answer. Scrawled in a corner between drops of blood. Be glad you're not here, Rook. Let's see. Marvin. Scott. Also process it. Okay, maybe that. What was Marvin's like? The B, right? Or something? No B's on this one. Maybe it's on the other. Okay, B on that one. More than one. Hold on. That's right. Officer's note. David Ford. Elliot at FEB. I know there's good stuff in here. That's why I'm trying to figure this out. Fuck. Hold on. Read? Oh, wait, here we go. Marvin Phillips. Oh, it's like literally like right here. What is this guy's? So, oh, it's Rita. Aha! Alright, that's one lock. This is David, Elliot. Oh yeah, it plays like shit on the Switch. Aha! I did it. Oh yeah. Ooh, speed load. Yeah. Let's see if I find that. Yes. Nice. Oh yeah. Okay. We got all that set. I did a puzzle. I did it correctly. Weak ass gun. Face down, ass up, buddy. Alright, so I don't have the combination for that. Alright, anything else? This lead? Okay, so I need the key for that. Here. Suck it. Stuff. Medicinal benefits of herbs. Humans have used herbs to treat sickness and disease since the dawn of time. In this book, we will explore 3 such herbs native to the native Arklay Mountains. Green herbs have the ability to heal basic injuries, while blue herbs have long been used to treat poisoning. As for red herbs, they are visually appealing. They offer no medicinal benefits, or so it was thought until recently. It's well known that combining herbs together produces blends that heighten the herb's effects, but it has been discovered that red herbs can play a big role when mixed properly. Oh, excuse me. Jesus Christ. Boobs and feet. According to one doctor of Asian medicine, mixing blue and red herbs together produces a blend that will strengthen one's constitution. Truly, we have only just begun to realize the full potential of these herbs and their ability to heal the human body. Further research is sure to yield even more fascinating results. Word. Oh yeah, there's all the ammos. I need it. Give me gunpowder. So let's combine some gun. This now, yes. Cool. I save. And so far, this is going way better than just play. Feel a little outfit. Or redder. Yep. Herb. film I can develop here. Right. Rod and a book. Let's see. We're doing. Put that away for now. And, really needed like an inventory. It's like no inventory. Oh, that's okay. If I see, yeah, I'll still be here. I'm sure. I'm trying to play a decent amount, so. Yeah. All right, that one's not getting back up. I don't think. Hey, where'd you? I don't think I can stomp on their heads. It's kind of disappointing. Yeah, the portable safe. I remember. I think I figured that one out on my own. Flame rounds. My grenade already. Oh, buddy. Buddy. Hey, what's up, Annie? Hell yeah. What anime you watching? Oh. I guess I won't waste too many. Okay, got some flame rounds. Take it. Come back and. Ooh, the key. Hell yeah, we got the clover key. Standard staple of Resident Evil. I think I'm quicker soon. Yeah. Yep. That's it's not. It's... Oh man. Maybe I'll. Okay. See. Or- Some guys scribblings. Damn those corporate assholes. They cut me off after all I've done for them. But if that's how it's gonna be, so be it. I'm gonna have a little fun of my own as the world goes to shit. I boarded all those filthy pigs up in a steel pen and set some C4. All I gotta do is detonate it and it's sayonara, suckers. But it's no fun if it's over too soon, so maybe I'll give that one raving loon something to really squeal about. Yeah, maybe I'll give him a little toy and tell him, kill the guy next to you and I'll spare the others. I wonder what he'll do. You yell about justice and pride, but how many times did you go against me, your own superior? Yeah, you're such a good cop. So good you had to die. Man, this is fun. I need some music for this. What a swell guy. Yes, okay. More inventory space. Maybe I shouldn't have used that earlier. Son of a bitch. Hey. Okay.
How fast can you get back here?
Why? What's up?
I've got something to show you.
Hurry up. I'm on my way.
Sure, it's important, Marvin. Go down. That's okay. Take this. It does. You zombies. Come back for you later. I gotta go talk to my boy Martin here.
There you are. Come here.
What is it?
Take a look.
Oh my god, he made it!
You know him?
Yeah, it's Leon. Can I get in?
Rookie. Thought he looked familiar. You can make it to that courtyard. There's a second floor to the side.
Okay. Thanks, Marvin. I'm on it.
Save again. Right here. Health things. Just the other one. No. Grenade launcher. Probably should do my save. Alright, let's see. Save. Sure. process of illumination. How did I do this last time? Hell yeah. I'm smart. Oh yeah, it's one of the keys uh for the button pad for the goddamn police inventory. Hell yeah. Perfect. Let's see. It was this way. Safe deposit, security room. Yeah, it's this. So, oh wait, is that the wrong key? No. Sorry. There. Dude, oh. Damn out. Oh my god, there. Right. Wait, he's still alive. Right, bitch. Let's go. Stop closing the door. Okay. All right. So now I can choose here. Flame rounds, 2. I don't need. Expand in my inventory. That's got it. Okay, cool. So we did that. Now I gotta go meet up with. Opposite. Here. No. Oh, I can... Ah! 102. Oh, 102. Oh. 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 You're right, Patsy. You're a lifesaver. Hell yeah. Thanks. That works. You're the best. Marvin. Ammo away for now. Till I get my bag upgraded again. Alright. Let's go meet up with baby boy Leon. His baby face. This side? Oh, I guess I'm done with this key. Here. I'm gonna go store it just in case. I don't think I need it anymore. I think that was my hint that I don't need the key. Yeah, you can do it, Pensy. You can eat something. Maybe try like something like soup or something that's kind of like light on your system. If it has an X on it, it's got like a red check mark on it. Is that what you mean? I'll just put it in my inventory. It's okay. It'll stay in my box. That's where it lives now. It just won't be in my actual on-person inventory. Alright, I'll discard that stuff later. If it's really like taking up too much space, I'll just... The art room. Art article, The Red Stone. The ruby that captivated Edward the Black Prince, the pearl that the Queen of the Nile milked dry, the diamond that led Queen to the guillotine. There's no end to the number of tales related to the appeal of jewels. This mysterious red stone is simply the latest to sparkle among them. Like those other jewels, this one's origin is unknown. It's said that it once adorned a noblewoman's jeweled box and was even dedicated to a wise king. This fall, this stone that's been long shrouded in legend will be on display during auction. There are sure to be many eager enthusiasts there. But, dear reader, one would do well to approach with care, for devilry lies in beauty's shadow. This jewel has turned caring nobles who love their subjects into despots more terrible than Caligula. And we have the tales to prove it. Seriously, it's precisely because these jewels are bathed in blood that their luster stirs something in the hearts of people everywhere. That's what I put in the box of infinity. Yeah. Ooh, the weapons locker key. I can go get the shotgun now. Hell yeah. Perfect. Good run back. It's me. Give me your arm. I can thing yet. I think I have to find the book to put in the other arm. Go get the shotgun. I feel like that's going to be useful, so go back and get that real quick. Is Josie the one that's like has a twin and has like an eye patch or something? With like the pink hair? Like I haven't played Code Vein 2 yet, but I've watched people play it. Save because obsessively save. She bites you. Yeah, yeah. Hell yeah, it's about shotgun time. Ooh, it's like a sawed-off shotgun. That's cool. Oh, it's like, is that a shotgun or a musket? What the fuck? Oh, it's that's the grenade launcher. Oh. Let's see. I feel like I need something that powerful now, but I mean, I know they're good for the liquors. I think the flame rounds destroy the liquors pretty well. So maybe I should get my grenade rounds. Liquors are a pain in the ass. Let's do that. Let's get some flame. Down. Okay. Save it. Save! Yeah, this is going way better than my last playthrough. Fancy was here for my Leon playthrough, and it was like so wonky. I think it's also because I didn't have my gamma like up enough, and at the time I had like a glare on my, because I used my art tablet as my gaming monitor. So I was having all sorts of. And word. Need a crank for this. We're coming soon. Oh yeah, the helicopter just straight up like crashes into the fucking side of things here. Herb. This is fine. Nothing bad's happening. He's just taking a nap. He had an in-flight nap.
Leon! I'll be right there! Leon, we really gotta stop meeting like this.
Are you all right? Please, Chopper, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Who cares about him?
No, I don't.
It's good to see your face, though.
How are you holding up?
I'm hanging in there.
Overnight, huh?
Find your brother?
I did actually.
She's kind of like rocking back and forth like she's like a teenage girl with a crush. Also, how did you not notice them?
Get your sights.
I wonder if he makes it. It's a surprise. Off the phone. We got pressing issues. I don't know, like Leon isn't like my type as far as like guys go. I mean, he's very baby Coral, don't get me wrong, but he's just not I don't know. I don't find him terribly healing. Yeah, I don't. Space. Oh, I can. Just in time as we discuss the types. Telling Fancy that Leon's not really my type. Easy. Oh wait, can I not go on this thing? Right out there. Now let me right back here. That way. You're still alive. Brother. Please that. That's true. In the movie. It's a little closer. That guy's pretty handsome. Flaming zombies. God. Oh, I didn't know you were there. Okay. Ah, no! No! Oh no, that's bad. He's on fire and he's biting me. Oh, I can't use it there. It's not the right place. Fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Oh no. Hold down. Oh shit. Oh, I love Jill. Jill's my favorite Resident Evil girl. She's Jill, the master of unlocking. You were almost a Jill sandwich. Blood. I hope it's not this blood. Alright, so still need this for some. Gotta be some. I don't really need a full heat. Super need that board either. Herb, I can. Green herbs. Trying to think of anywhere else I could. Pretty sure there's somewhere. I think I'm gonna play Resident Evil 3 Remake next, because that's actually one Resident Evil game, like the original. I didn't actually play through myself. Um, I watched a friend play. Oh no, Marvin! He's totally gonna make it. It's not gonna end poorly for Martin at all. I don't know what you're talking about. He's fine. I've been in the. All right. I think. Oh fuck. Jesus Christ, dude. How many times do I have to fucking shoot? This guy is still up. Alright. Kill myself. Oh, I think I have to go all the way to the roof. What's that? Oh yeah, here's the book. There's the red book. Okay, that's something I can do. That guy's 100% gonna get it, so. Oh, yeah. Okay, so notes here. This thing. Alright, so this one, it's the unicorn. Unicorn is fish, scorpion, vix. I need the fifth. Scorpion. Scorpio. Hell yeah. Yeah, you're like an expert on Resident Evil. I am not. I mean, I'm doing pretty good this time. Like it normally takes me a lot longer. But I'm doing pretty well here. What's that? Dude, you're still alive, man. In a relative way. Okay, so I need to go back to the art room. Save again. Like I said, I'm gonna obsessively save, so don't mind me. Yeah, the model that they did for the remake for Jill is so hot, like crazy hot. Like her and Ada are like the hottest girls. Sorry, Claire, you're kind of mid. As I play as you. Oh yeah, I gotta put the medallion in. Like Claire's not ugly or anything. It's not like she's just kind of blah. So mean. It was. I do like her jacket though. Her jacket's pretty hot. All right, I gotta remember. I think there's flaming zombies still left. Oh, they're not on fire anymore. Don't come in here. Can't put the book in? Or do I have to combine them? That's silly. Give it to me. It's mine. Oh. I think. There we go. Alright. Hell yeah. That probably a zombie right outside. Raw. Does this wheel not go? It says a crank right underneath. All I had to do was look at it. Oh, there's... Eat it. Eat it. Where would I post my speedrun time? Code vein pic. I guess under there's a gaming tab. I think a gaming channel on my Discord. You can put it there. Uh, yeah. It's the jewel. Gotta use the round handle. And I also have bolt codes. I mean, I try to look at it when, I get like a notification when somebody posts anything. So, all right. Still haven't gotten. Oh, the shower room. That's where I use the. Ah, I remember. No, I'll look at it. I don't know. Like it's kind of difficult. Uh, it's not like I can like make people utilize the channels in there, and interact with them. I could just hope that people do. Um, thanks. I mean, granted, like I should personally interact more in the Discord. Um, I don't know. I'm usually just like working on stuff so much when I'm not streaming. And then like I remember that I should like interact with it, and I go through do a bunch. This even. Stare. For how to get to clock check. Room, so main hall. Okay, so I do need to. We're not going to get lost for 2 hours. That's not how we're going to play this playthrough here. I'm definitely gonna take some time to make some more YouTube shorts. Because the only way to really bring people in is through like outside social media and stuff. So at least as far as I can tell, is like I'm not like certainly not like an expert when it comes to like growing my channel and growing like my Twitch and stuff, but I would like to. I would like to be achieve my goal of streamer guy that does really well. I'll go get a board. Might as well put it there just so they don't eat up my ammo. Can't have that. Eat all my ammos. Hey, you have way more people following you on social media than I do. I'm not as cool as Pensy, and I don't think I ever will be. Pensy is the pinnacle of best person to be friends with on social media, so thanks. I will definitely make sure that. Haha. Nope. Oh, this is the other place I can use the. Hell yeah. Ooh, that's the below the C4. That's cool. Cap. Locker room. Okay, cap is the thing I need for that. Camu, is that like Timu, but even more budget? Right, where? I need past the dark room. Goodbye. Yeah. Oh, more grenades. Hell yeah. Dig 'em. Alright. Hell yeah. This guy. What's that? Rusty. But. Up. Stamp. Room for all. That's fine. Inside it. Let's get it. Switch. Yep, I see it. Get it. Did that not hurt him? Push it. Go. Oh, you're right in front of me. Eat it. Ha 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 ha. Start. What's that? All the blood. Good thing we know it's not Chris's. Ah. Shit, my. Back! Back! It's the other side of the library. Oh, wait, I already got that one. I already got that. Here, because I got so much crap in my right now. There's a dog on. More of those. I mean, that's cool. C4. September 22nd, 1998. Office Supply Internal Relocation Notice. Heat resistant 3, number combination safe. Move from Star's office second floor to West office first floor. The combo is left 9, right 15, left 7. Please change the combo ASAP upon receipt. Okay, cool. I don't need the cutters anymore? Oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. Hell yeah. Fancy to the rescue. Alright, so that, I think I combine it. Perfect. Herb, I can combine that with my green herb. Give me some more space. Swore there was a note from high grade. Acid. Yeah, just filled up my inventory again. I did a great job. Failed to authenticate account. Oh yeah, I gotta find the dongle. Then the dongle goes in there. Now the mighty search for the dongle. Okay. Stay right there. Friends. Some stuff away real quick. Yes. Perfect. Need that right. Acid. Because I do need to go use that C4. What's that? do so. Yeah, let's. How you holding up, buddy? Still bleeding out? Yep. Poor Martin. Martin was a good guy. The best. Oh wait, I had a combination save. I ran right past it. And they bully him. No. Can't bully him. That's not okay. That's not okay. Alright. Let's see. Left 9, right 57. I gotta use a boomer tactic here. Hold on. Hate when I have to do stuff like this. I take a picture with it with my phone because for some reason I can't hold things in my memory long enough. Oh, well, shit. Thanks, Fancy. Perfect. Alright, so left. Left none. Right. There we go. Oh yeah. Yes. 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 More space. Give me all the pouches. Be more efficient than a marsupial. Marsupial. Fancy for the win there, for the clutch. Let's see. Where can I with me? Yeah, this stuff is particularly necessary. Alright, so going to, oh yeah, to blow up the sea. I think it's this. Pretty sure. Hey, man. Okay, now he's not. It's not. Shit, was it on the? I don't. Maybe the name or. Yeah, he's I don't have anything witty to say. Sorry, I was trying to come up with something and I couldn't. was trying to make a little Leon style joke there. It blew his mind. Boo. Okay, it's this room. There's a blow see for hear you. Catch me there. Alright. One, two. Lady Arrow Snack. Heck and heck. Lady head. Oh, this is. There we go. He got exploded? Yeah. I think the first time I did, I might not have done it. Oh, there you are. Crispy. Alright. Perfect. Alright. Awesome. So. Let's see. Oh, this. No, it is for late. Trying to see if there's items. Hell yeah. Little tiny gate. The most tiniest gate in the world. Save. Me. I'm doing it. Marvin, no.
Mom, let's get you out of here. Let's go. You okay?
Just go. Save yourself. Please, Blair.
I don't know, man. I've been bitten like 5 times and I'm fine.
Can't just leave me.
Poor Marv.
Thank you.
Hope you have a good time as a zombie, Marv. You deserve it, man. A little bit here. Let's go. Mine it. Let's throw this. Got 60. Pretty good. First, the way in. Boop. All right. Always good to check.
Hello? Hello?
I definitely thought that was a leaker. Dude, you moved it earlier. You can fit through there.
Hello? Hey. It's okay. I won't hurt you, I promise. You need help? Here, take my hand.
Like, bitch, I'm trying to hide.
Sorry, I don't understand. Why?
This is fun. That's I wonder if my acid rounds would have worked better for this. Dude. You gotta fuck up. Whee!
Hey, little girl. It's safe now. It's over. Are you sure? Yeah, I promise. Everything's fine. Just
Nice.
need you to lower that ladder for me. Will you help me find my mom? Your mom is down here? I think so. I hope so. Yeah. Of course. I'll help you.
Alright, let's see what I... Oh man, he had my knife in his... Shit. Sucks. So much weed down here. Jeez. He was having a good time. I mean, I suppose it was there in case I needed it. Since I'm playing on Super Weenie Hut Jr. mode, I didn't really need it. It was. Yeah, he didn't want me to steal it. Get away from my weed!
This way!
There you go. It's fine. No way, I gotta snoop first. Are you kidding me? I'm a snoopy little Claire. Oh no. Look at that, I would have missed that. Alright, I'll suppose I'll follow you. Because you're like 10. This is like such a good idea.
It won't move. You got it.
It won't move. Don't even try. Wait a minute, you're an adult.
So, where's Mom? She's make. Umbrella, that big pharmaceutical company. My mom's always at. Well, hopefully you'll get to see her again soon.
Yeah.
So, where's your dad?
Sad.
He, worked with my mom, but he's gone. Wow. Well,
Okay, that's right now. Let's take.
But my parents are gone. It's just me and my brother.
oh, I'm sorry.
Don't be. It means we've got something in common, and that's a good thing, right?
Alright. I think what I'll do is I'll play till I get to the next save. Yeah, manhole covers they're fucking heavy. Reload, big gun.
Over there!
Will do. Mr. X gonna show up again. I mean, pretty soon. Card, I think.
Damn it. I need a key card. Here, come out.
Yeah.
Are you sure this is the way?
This is what my mom told me last time.
I've been looking everywhere for you, Cherry. Afraid little remote feeder house has become a little dismissed. On the ground, remember?
You can't be serious.
On the ground. Cherry, tie her hands.
Why are you doing
Shut up. Tie her. Okay. Tie her up now or she dies.
Hey, you fat boomer bitch.
Child endangerment for starters.
This guy's entire diet is salami. He eats nothing but salami. That's right, Salami Joe. I'm coming for you.
Okay. Key card first. Then that asshole gets what's coming to him.
Let's see. Not a good guy at all. He's in fact a piece of shit. Thought I could. Maybe that was. Here. Goodbye. Oh fuck, behind me. God damn. Goodbye. Keep forgetting there's so many more blinkers to like in her game. Blue weed isn't. Trim at the end. For that. Oh, behind me. Okay. Welcome back. Put him back in. Yeah, let's just stick it back in there. Let's also. Red weed. Autopsy record number 53477. Name of deceased Johnston Hansen, male, Caucasian, 39 years old. Observations: found dead in jail cell bed by staff. Hands are still clenched tight due to rigor mortis, which should be coming to an end. It's highly likely that he died just after lights went out. Deceased was a well-known kleptomaniac, incarcerated multiple times. Incredibly, he was still even when in the jail. Right. It's got some. Alright, Jeff. Alright, buddy. Oh, his hands are. Guess this is maybe after gone? Oh. Okay. Or maybe it's one of these here. Yeah, they did a little dance. Oh shit. Sure. Nobody grabbed me. Alright, so like key. Alright, you said back this way. Into the hall. Room. Blue herb? Oh, hi. You get it? Yep. Around that corner, man. Get him. There we go. He's crispy. He's crispy bacon now. That's the way. So I guess this way. Way down here. Equipment disposal buttons. Item to be disposed. Key to patrol card 7439. Details. Bent key, no longer usable, but can still open the car's doors and trunk with its keyless entry buttons. Assuming it's in this box. Oh yeah, okay. Now I can open roll cars. A message from Mr. Raccoon. Howdy, boys and girls. It's your pal from the Raccoon City Zoo. It's always so great to see you. Today I wanted to talk about something really important to me. You know my popular raccoon toys? Well, I heard some bad kids have been using them for target practice, but that makes me really sad. Good little kids wouldn't be that mean, right? Plus, it's super dangerous, so don't do it. Anyway, see you at the zoo, Mr. Raccoon out. That's his goofy. So... Screen. Yep. Can we go in? Little fucking person. Come through the door. There we go. Alright, bud. You got too many donuts. I gotta put you down. I mean, I love donuts too, don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite sweets. Can't be a police officer if you eat too many donuts, man. I really just wasted a bunch of... Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did I just waste a bunch of ammo of like killing these guys for no reason? About to be pissed. Oh, they're so good. The diamond key. I'm sorry. I wish I could do something. It hurt. Still haven't found that blue herb here. I believe you, Betsy. Don't know where it is. Oh, you fat bitch. Get off me. Goodbye. Good day, sir. We are not friends. Alright. I'm thinking... probably save. All the way save. Ooh, hell yeah, better pistol. Fuck yeah. Yes. Same bullets. Hope it does. Yeah, I think I gotta go all the way back to save. But this has been a pretty long stream, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this because I do need to run, get Vegeta. Here we go, it's right here. Go ahead and save. And then I will throw you guys in the lobby here so we can do a wrap up. All right, well, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today while I played some Resident Evil. This went way better than my last run. I am not getting lost. I'm plowing through it pretty good here. Feeling pretty confident about it. I will be back tomorrow. Gonna be hopefully... I have made quite a bit of progress on my Code Vein fan art, so I'm gonna work on that a little bit more tomorrow. Be at the same usual time. So tomorrow will be an art stream. So if you like the kind of content I am providing, go ahead and give me a follow, see when I go live. If you really, really love it, consider subscribing. That would help me out tremendously. I will see you guys tomorrow for some artwork.